After Alex Eala's first Australian Open, I must admit that I'm still absorbing everything that transpired in Melbourne. Look, none of us were happy with the outcome. Singles and doubles first-round exits. However, you would be utterly unaware of what truly transpired at Melbourne Park if you believed it to be the entire tale. There was more to this than just tennis. This was about a 20-year-old who, as the entire world watched her every move, carried the hopes of an entire country on her shoulders. Allow me to depict what Monday was like. When Yaya enters court 6 for her singles match against Alicia Parks, thousands of Filipinos are waiting in line to enter. Thousands. The line went across Melbourne Park for several hundred yards. Security was at a loss on what to do. For hours, people were waiting to see her. While watching, and Kayavong of the BBC remarked on live radio, "I couldn't believe the queues who's on the scheduling team." The problem is that Court 6 can only accommodate roughly 1,500 people. The most well-liked player in the competition was placed on a court that could not accommodate even half of the spectators. Eala, on the other hand, came out fire. The first set of 6-love. Parks was totally overpowered. "I'm watching as if this is all there is to it. This is her time." Parks was unable to win a single game in 23 minutes. Eala was producing victories on both wings. She was landing her serve. The movement appeared to be sharp. The Filipino supporters crammed into the small stadium were going berserk. There are flags everywhere. Chants reverberate. Pure energy. Manila seemed to have been moved to Australia. Everything changed as the second set began. Parks changed, began stealing the ball sooner, and rerouted Eala's force rather than attempting to equal it. And Eala began to make mistakes when things were at their worst. The choice of shots became dubious. That self-assurance from the opening set simply disappeared. Parks prevailed 6-3 in the second set. The third set was then 6-3. 0-6 63-63 is the final score. A fantasy turned into a nightmare for an hour and 31 minutes. But this is what killed me. Aya somehow managed to express gratitude as she entered her press conference following that devastating defeat. She didn't object when they asked if the Australian Open made a mistake by not placing her on a larger court. "Yes, it was so heartwarming," she remarked. "I know a lot of people were supporting me, but Alicia played extremely well, so that's one of the things that makes a loss like today a little bit harder. And you know, all I can hope for is that the support will last both the victories and the defeats. Could we have a moment to discuss that?" In her Grand Slam main draw debut, a 20-year-old stunned thousands tennis fans by blowing a 6-love lead in the first set. She also worries about whether they will continue to help her in the wake of her defeats. That isn't typical. The majority of players would be hiding from the media or offering reasons. Eala is out there expressing gratitude to others and praying that they won't leave her since she lost. She continued, "I truly appreciate that everyone came out and crammed themselves onto that comfortable court. Even though I was 5 feet 2 inches in the third, I still felt incredibly loved. Thus, I'm incredibly grateful and appreciative." She felt the affection of the crowd even though she was down 5 feet 2 inches in the third set, when the match was all but lost. She is a person like that. However, things improve. She revealed something genuine when they questioned her about handling all the attention. Yes, taking it all in is a process. There were, in my opinion, some aspects of this week that were a little overpowering, particularly during my sessions. I was surprised by how many people showed up. Unlike match practices, her practices drew large crowds. The majority of players play on vacant courts with a few devoted spectators. Hundreds of people came to watch Yaya warm up. She is learning how to handle the kind of attention often given to the top 10 players at the age of 20. The doubles match versus Magdalena and Shuko Ayama took place on Tuesday. In the first set, Eala and her Brazilian partner Ingrid Martins jumped out to a 4-love advantage. As I watch, I think, okay, they learned from yesterday, they're going to finish this. No, not at all. After forcing it to 55 and winning 5 of the next 6 games, Lynette and Aoyama won the set in a tiebreak. Similar to the singles match, it has a strong start and a fading end. For a brief while, it seemed as though redemption was imminent after they won the second set 6-2 to tie the match. They went behind 0-4 in the third set. At that moment, the majority of participants would pack it in. Martins and Eala battled back to 34, including this crazy 6th game in which they refused to give up and force 5 deuces. It was finished 6-3 by Lynette and Ayama, Eala's Australian Open ended abruptly. First round exits in both singles and doubles with no victories. Eala wrote on Instagram a few hours later, "And I swear this is why people love her. It is such a privilege to be able to play here. Learning, developing, and having fun are all privileges that must be earned. Melbourne, thank you." She describes being there as a privilege following 2 devastating losses. The majority of players would be whining or offering justifications. She is discovering thankfulness in disappointment. She increased the number of posts on her Instagram story. "I wanted to discuss the tremendous amount of help I've gotten this week. Seeing how my art may impact so many lives in one way or another is incredibly touching. It serves as a reminder that my actions are a part of a common endeavor. The AO this year has had a profound impact on me, and I will remember it for the rest of my career. I'll see you the following year." Let me now present you with some astounding numbers. 171,000 people watched Eala's pre-event press conference online. Carlos Alcaraz 29,000. 29,000 Coco Golf. With 9,000 viewers, Arena Sabalina is the top show in the globe. Eala received more views than any of them put together, and then some. More people watched her press conferences and match clips on YouTube than Novak Djokovic and Alcaraz put together. It's not a typo. She remained modest when they questioned her about such absurd figures. "Naturally, I'm not in the same league as the greats Djokovic, Sabalenka, Alcaraz, and everyone else. They have my utmost regard." She then stated something that struck a different chord. "This year, I am the only Filipina participating in the draw. I believe that I am the only Filipino who has ever participated in the draw. Thus, there are advantages to consider. That's what counts." The first and only Filipino woman to compete in the main draw of the Australian Open is Alex Eala. Throughout the tournament's entire existence, dating back to 1922, she is the first in more than a century of the tournament's existence, not just this year. Regardless of what transpired during the contests, this makes her a trailblazer. For every young Filipino girl who picks up a racket and aspires to play on these stages, she is creating opportunities. "I'm V, a Filipina who came from Sydney only to see Eala," said BBC Sport. "She always carries the flag and the country proudly. Everyone can relate to that. She's turning into a national hero. Everyone is beginning to put aside their activities in order to watch her contests." She also controls the sports news. People in the Philippines are pausing their activities to watch Alex Eala play tennis. Tennis seldom existed as a popular sport in a nation where basketball, boxing, and volleyball are the most popular sports until Eala began dismantling boundaries. The Filipino supporters were chastised by some for being disrespectful, noisy, and applauding Park's errors. V stood up for them. "We get overly thrilled because we are so happy for her success. However, since this was the first time a player from the Philippines had played here, we were too happy to be impolite to her opponent. Indeed, they may have gotten a bit carried away. Can you blame them, though?" The first Filipino woman to compete in the Australian Open, their national hero, was playing in a cramped arena. Emotions were running high, of course. However, Parks deserves a lot of praise. Finding a way to win while losing the first set of 6-love with practically every fan against you. That's the mindset of a champion. Keung articulated it flawlessly. Parks deserves a lot of praise. Almost every fan is against you after you lost the first set to love. Her ability to overcome things and maintain composure was really outstanding.